Hakadosh, Boker Or Masechet Kiddushin Daf Tet Amud Aleph 79a1. Says the Mishnah. The Mishnah is Ayin Chet Amud Bet. Says Mishnah. Mi shenatan reshut lishlucho lekadesh et bito. Somebody that comes and he gives a reshut to a shaliach to get married, his daughter. Ve'halachu ve'kitshad, and he went himself and he got her married off. Im shelo kadmu lekidushav, which means if his kiddushin of the father came before the kiddushin of the shaliach, kiddushav kiddushin, so his is the kiddushin. Im shel shlucho kadmu, if of the shliach preceded the kiddushin of the father, kiddushav kiddushin, so then shliach's kiddushin is a good kiddushin, because he appointed him as shaliach. Now, what happens now, we don't know which one. When we have a doubt, they both said it both happened on Sunday, they both said it, but we're not really sure what's going on. So what happens? Shnehem notnim get. Both of them have to give a get. Right? Vimnatsu, now if they want, echad noten get, ve'echad kones. One of them gives a get, and one of them gets married. Because since you have a doubt who was the one that had a real marriage, so one of them gives a get. And then the other one could do a real kiddushin again, and there's no problem, right, whatsoever. Okay? We're in the V'chen ha'isha, right? Well, we're in the Mishnah. Now the Mishnah says, right? V'chen ha'isha, right? The isha. Now what happens? You have a woman, right? And in the woman, right here you have here, yeah. V'chen ha'isha. The same halacha applies to a woman, right? V'chen ha'isha shenatna reshut lishlucha lekadesha. So one more time, you have, right? You have the exact same case, the man and the woman. And obviously, by a question, you're going to say, what's the difference, right? But 1 minute, but that's just good. Let's see the Gemara. But you have a case of a man, case of a woman. The man makes a shaliach to get his daughter married, right? The woman, right? The question is, why do you have to make it for his daughter? He could do it also for himself, but whatever. Then the woman comes and she makes a shaliach to get herself married. And the exact same story. She makes a shaliach to get herself married. She comes, she sees a golden opportunity, boom, she gets herself married. So says the Gemara, the Mishnah, the same thing. If her kiddushin, meaning her acceptance of the kiddushin for herself, preceded the shliach's kiddushin, so therefore her kiddushin is a good kiddushin. But if it's a shliach's kiddushin that preceded her kiddushin, so then that the shliach's kiddushin is a good kiddushin. If we don't know whose kiddushin was first, shneim notrin get. Both of them get, right? Now, if one of them wants, if both of them wants, basically, echad noten get, ve'echad kones. One of them could give a get, and one of them would just come and just get married to her, right? There has to be that form. There has to be the right echad noten get, ve'echad, right? Ve'echad kones. Okay, says the Gemara, right? The obvious question, right, that we were going to ask ourselves. And the obvious question that we're going to ask ourselves is, utzricha. We need both cases. At the end of the day, it was bediko todovar. It was a deja vu. I'm telling you halacha to do the man, and then I'm telling you to do halacha to do the woman, and it's exact same case. Why do I need both cases? Says the Gemara, utzricha, I need both cases. Why? If I would only teach you by the case of him, which means that when he's going to come and accept the kiddushin for his daughter, right? So then I would say, a man, he's an expert in yuchasim, and therefore he's not going to be somech on his shaliach. And because of that, when he saw somebody be'emet miyuchas for his daughter, he went and he was mevatel the shlichut. He comes and he says, I don't want the shaliach. Why? Because you know what? Sometimes a shaliach makes it worse. You know, sometimes people think that they help and they make things worse, right? The exact same thing, right? There's a concept that people have to understand that this guy, he's a baki. He knows, I know what I want for my daughter. And if I know what I want from it, I'm going to be vatel the shlichut. Why? This is a good match. This is perfect, meaning in heaven. But a woman, she does not know, right, anything to do with yuchasim. And therefore, if right now you have a case of a woman which is not a bekiyah, that she's not going to be an expert in yuchasim, I would say, you know what? The kiddushin is not a good kiddushin. The kiddushin is not a good kiddushin. Right? Imagine right now. So he comes and he says, right, that's why you needed the case of the woman. That even though the woman, I would have come and I would have said that, you know what, it wasn't a good kiddushin because maybe she's not bekiyah. No, her kiddushin, meaning the kiddushin of the shlicha, right? Or when it was she came and she made a shliach, is going to help against it. And that's why I needed the seif of the Mishnah. Right? He comes and he says, if right now we're going to come and we're going to say, right, we're only talking about her case, meaning, one second, if the chidush is only by the woman, so just teach me the woman case. Don't tell me a case in the Mishnah, man, that he's doing it for his daughter, and a woman. Just teach me the case of the woman. The Gemara no. He says because a woman wants to check very, very good, which means that it's mistaber that she's going to check very, very, very well, right? And not just stam, the man that comes and gets a shaliach, but to do with the father, say, listen, he just wants his daughter married, right? He just wants his daughter married. So he just doesn't, it's not the same. It's not the same. He just wants his daughter married, right? So therefore it's tzricha, and that's why you need it. And by the way, you should know, both svarot apply. Many times when you come and you get a shaliach, right? The shaliach will never be as meticulous as you because you want something done well. And that's why many times, what do they say? If you want something done well, do it yourself. Do not get a shaliach to do it. Because if you get a shaliach to do it, right, you put your foot in it because he doesn't care. Usually he'll come, yeah, I'm your shaliach, I'm going to do it. So that's the first svara. But you also see the second svara. The second svara is going to be the other way around, that sometimes it happens that already it gets to an age where the father comes and he says, you know what, the ikar, my daughter's married. That's the ikar. Get her married off. Doesn't matter, just get her married off. That's the ikar. Just get her married off. I want her married. I want grandchildren. By the way, I've heard this. My mother said that you're shocked. You're like, what? Yeah, but that's what why? Because you have that. So that's what he's coming and he's saying over here. So now says the Gemara, Itma, it was stated. And that's why, by the way, tzricha, that's why you need both cases. The former and the latter part of the Mishnah, you needed it because you need the reish and the seifa just to understand the both dimensions, seeing how it is. Whether it's the concept that the shaliach sometimes is not the best, or the concept that whether it's going to be that sometimes the father is just going to say, you know what, yalla, just get married, right? And he's not going to, just get married. Fine. Yeah. Sometimes, it's sometimes, I'm not going to say it's out of ra. It's just that sometimes it just happens that he's like, like yalla, like, and then they don't really realize what they're doing. Itman, it was stated, Kidsha avia baderech, vekidsha atzma ba'ir. Imagine right now you have a case where the father accepts kiddushin for her from one man, and the exact same day, right, the daughter accepts herself kiddushin from from someone else, right? And what happens is that we want to find out, is she a bogeret or not? Now remember one more time, a father, and this is answering your question before, right? A father, right? He could only marry off his daughter if she's a ketana or a nara, or if she's a bogeret and she gave him the power of attorney to be a shaliach, and then the father's the shaliach. Now there's a question, can the father make another shaliach? That's usually not, unless she actually explicitly says that, but that's just the way that it is. That's why when we're giving a get, we come and we say it has to be a shaliach, and a shaliach mea shluchim, until 100 shluchim, because you could just continue going, having many different shaliachs doing it. But that's the only way. So now what happens is, she's a na'ara, and the father comes, and he gets her married, and then she gets herself married. Now the father was somewhere else. That's why it says baderech. He was, traveling, and he's traveling through a city. He says, you know what? I found the perfect guy for my daughter. And the daughter is in the city, and she comes and he says, I found a perfect husband. Here it is. Why are you going so far off? Right? Many times they're right underneath your nose, and you don't even realize it. Yeah. So what happens? They come and they check, and she's actually already a bugeret. So Rav says, one second. We only checked her the next day. Right now, obviously, the way to check, they get the women to come in and they check that she's a bogeret, so on and so forth. Fine, whatever. Very good. Now, what happens is, now if she was a bogeret, she was probably a bogeret before, and therefore the kiddushin of the father is not a good kiddushin. Because if she's a bogeret, the father's kiddushin is wallow, right? That doesn't help, right? Shmuel says, no, I'm going to suspect to the kiddushin of both of them. What does that mean? Maybe she was still in the ara. Maybe she became a bogeret overnight. Maybe overnight, all of a sudden now she's a bogeret, but really behemet, right? All these things, but really behemet. She was a nara the entire time. So basically, according to Rav, her kiddushin is a good kiddushin. According to Shmuel, I'm going to suspect for both kiddushins. So says the Gemara, Eimat, when is this happening? If you're telling me it's within the 6 months, remember, Ktana is under bat mitzvah. Na'ara is from bat mitzvah until 6 months, 12 and a half. 12 and a half onwards, right, is going to be what? 12 and a half onwards is going to be bogeret. So now says the Gemara, if you're talking about within the 6 months, in this case, you're going to tell me in Rav, Hari bogeret lefanenu? I don't understand you. He says now she's going to become a bogeret, right? I mean, she wasn't a bogeret until you actually checked her. Right? Why? Because at the end of the day, it's within the 6 months. But rather, we're talking about after the 6 months. So if we're talking about after the 6 months, Shmuel is going to say, now we're going to suspect. Right? Why? Shmuel says, there's only 6 months. So if it's after 6 months, it's already barur that she should be already a bogeret. So why does Shmuel say, and if it's within the 6 months, what's going on? Answers the Gemara, what are we dealing with? You're on the cutoff date. You know, many times people, they wait until the last day and then they try to do something, right? And many times because they're doing it last minute, they destroy it. So what happens? He comes and he says, you're on the last day. Because we're on the last day, we don't know. Shinara, she will get it. What's going on? So Rav comes and he says, Harei bogeret lefanenu, right? Midahashta bogeret. She's a bogeret. Why? Because now she's a bogeret. Which means, just like, right, we come, this is a very actually famous case, they say it in Lamdanut, they call it kan nimtza kan haya, which means, right now, this is what I see, and this is what I'm going to say that what it is, right? This is what I'm always saying, this is what there was. So right now, what do you have in front of you? You have a bogeret. You have a bogeret. She was always a bogeret. What does that mean? Not always, but meaning yesterday when she did the Kiddushin, she was a bogeret. Betzafra nami bogeret. Also in the morning, she was a bogeret. Shmuel Amar, Shmuel comes and he says, no, hashta hudaiti simanim. What does that mean? Right now, she brought the simanim. Meaning, beforehand in the morning, when the father did the Kiddushin, meaning, remember, in this case, there was no doubt whose Kiddushin was first, right? We know that the father's Kiddushin preceded, right, the Kiddushin of the daughter. We know that. That's a fact. Right, because if not, then for sure it's a safek. And then we would say probably sveka that her kiddushin is a better kiddushin, right? But right here, there's no doubt of that. For sure, the father's kiddushin was done in the morning, and hers was done in the afternoon. But the only question is, since you're on the cutoff date, was she a bogeret already or not a bogeret? That's the question. So what's happening? So therefore, Rav says she was already a bogeret because when you checked her, she's a bogeret. So yesterday she was already a bogeret, and Shmuel says no. I apologize. Now she became the simanim, and therefore we're going to have to suspect for both. Meaning, even according to Shmuel, he's not saying 100%, it's only the father. He's saying we're suspecting for both. We're not sure. Now, what do we go back to our Mishnah? Either shneim tzrichim latet get, both of them have to give a get, or if they both want, one gives a get and one gives the marriage. And according to Shmuel, this yesod is exact same yesod that happens by a mikveh. Imagine right now you have a mikveh. Now, Baruch Hashem, nowadays this doesn't apply. And the reason why it doesn't apply is because the mikvahot are much more than 40 seah. Okay? But imagine right now you had a mikveh that was exactly 40 seah. Exactly the measure of a mikveh. And then what happens is, right, you go inside and then you come outside. And all of a sudden now, and that's what we're going to see now, mikveh shenimdad v'nimtza chaser. You had a mikveh that until now we always knew that it had 40 seah. And what happens is that without realizing it, the level of the water keeps on descending, right? More and more. And all of a sudden, what happens is I come and I say, one second. Let me check the water. And all of a sudden, you check the level of the water, and now it's chaser. It doesn't have 40 seah. Says, right? This is the Mishnah. This is Mikvaot bet Mishnah bet. Perek ben Mishnah bet. Kol ta'arot shnasu al gabav lemafreya. All the different ta'arot that were done lemafreya, right? Which means until you knew that for sure the mikveh was whole, right? Ben birshuta yachid, ben birshuta rabim, tmea. I don't care what the mikveh is. Meaning, right? Usually, sometimes I come and I say safek tuma birshuta rabim is tahor, safek tuma. No. In this case, I don't care where the mikveh is. The mikveh could be birshuta yachid, meaning it could be my own private mikveh that I have in my basement. It could be Bishuta Rabim, so it's a public mikveh that you go to the public mikveh out. It doesn't matter. Says the Mishnah, Tmeot. And therefore, why? Because there's a Chazakah Dehashta. What is a Chazakah Dehashta? Which one?
What period of time?
Until the last time that I checked that it was full. Until the last time that I know that it was full. Chazakah Dehashta. What does it mean, Chazakah Dehashta? right? Chazakah dehashta means it's a chazakah, right? That I'm going on now, meaning I'm looking right now. What is it, right? So therefore, I'm going to say that it was chaser lemafreya until the time that I knew that it was maleh. So if I already knew it was maleh, let's say for example last week, so I'm going to say, listen, it was maleh until then, right? And when does it start becoming chaser, right? So I said maybe the day afterwards, maybe it was a minute afterwards, maybe a guy came in, right, and he came in with his clothing, right, and when he came out with all the water, right, which is drenched in his clothing, and then that's it. I don't know when it was happening. I checked it last week. So you're right. So says the Gemara, until the last time. And this is the Mishnah Mefureshet. So the question, what the Gemara is asking is, according to Shemuel, why is this different than a mikveh? Right? We learn over here, right, that we're going to come and we're going to say that the Mishnah, the Chazakah of Hashta, the Chazakah of now, is going to be Kovea Lemafreya, that what? The mikveh. It's going to go retroactively. The mikveh was chaser during the time of the Tvilah. So the same thing in the case of Kiddushin, the Chazakah de Hashta has to be Kovea that the daughter was for sure Abogeret from the beginning of the day, right? Just like I have it right now. Chazakah de Hashta, or what I told you in the other ways of saying it, kan nimtza kanaya. I mean, right now, this is the way that I see it. I see it full. I see you come, you checked her out. She's a Bogeret. So I'm going to say she's a Bogeret. From when? It could have been a week ago. But I'm going to say from yesterday morning because it was the cutoff day. So I'm going to say from yesterday morning. So answers the Gemara, Shane Hatam, it's different. There's a different svara by the mikveh. You know the different svara by the mikveh is? Teika lemeimar hamed tameh al chezakato ve'amar lo tava. Which means like this. We were looking and focusing, zooming in on the mikveh. And therefore, when I'm zooming in the mikveh, I have a problem. I have a mikveh in front of me. Is the mikveh kasher or is it not kasher? So says, right, the Mishnah, right now it's not kasher. I'm going to say it's not kasher until the last time that you checked it. That's simple. Here, there's a different svara by the mikveh. You know the different svara by the mikveh is? The person has cheskat tumah. Meaning, zoom out from the mikveh, pay attention to the human being. The human being has a chazakah that he's tameh. And therefore, since he has a chazakah that he's tameh, I want to say that the chazakah of his chazakah that he's tameh does not override the chazakah of the mikveh. Really, be'emet, maybe the mikveh be'emet I would have said is kasher. Maybe. But I have a doubt in the mikveh. So maybe be'emet I would say, but the mikveh maybe is part of it. I don't know. But you know what? I have a chazakah. And the chazakah, I don't care about the chazakah of the mikveh. I care about the chazakah of the human being. And the human being is hamed tameh al chazkato. And I'm going to say, lo tavar. He didn't do tevilah. And that's why I'm going to say that's the case in the mikveh. Not because of the mikveh. Really, be'emet in the mikveh, maybe the mikveh is part of it. I don't know really. Right? But we're machmir only not because of the mikveh, because of the human being. Because he was tameh. So says the Gemara, I don't understand you. Adrabah, the opposite. Why are you only focusing on the human being? Focus on mikveh. He says, Hamed mikveh l'cheskato. Ve'amer lo chasar. 1 second. Until now, you had a kosher mikveh? Yes. So you're focusing on the human being. I'm focusing on the mikveh. The mikveh was a kosher mikveh until today. So why don't I just say that the mikveh had a chizka kashrut? And if the mikveh has a chizka kashrut and the human being has a doubt whether he was taval in a kosher mikveh or not, you have a chazakah of the mikveh. So pay attention to the mikveh. So says the Gemara, 1 second. You know why I can't use the chazakah of the mikveh? The mikveh is lacking now. Meaning there's a reuta. There's something bad in the mikveh. I have a mikveh. I want to use the chazakah of the mikveh. Yeah, but you have a reuta. That's like a person that he has chizka kashrut. A person that has chizka kashrut means he has a chazakah that he's kosher. Do you know that person can lose a chizka kashrut? When he comes and he does certain actions, he loses the chizka kashrut. So now if you're going to come and you're going to tell me, listen, he's kosher, I'm going to say, listen, the guy did A, B, C. Is he still kosher? There's a reuta. Once there's a reuta, I don't take that into account anymore. That's it, you're gone. And that's the way it is. So says the Gemara, so 1 second. Let's go back then. If you're going to tell me then, and this is how Shmuel is going to answer up, and he tells you that the mikveh is chaser lefanecha, and therefore you cannot come and use the mikveh, the chazakah, the mikveh. So he says, hare bogeret lefanecha. She's a bogeret. So she's a bogeret lefanecha, just like you said that you didn't want to use the mikveh's chazakah because it's chaser lefanecha. Here you have the bogeret's chazakah, and she is a bogeret lefanecha. And therefore, you, Shemuel, compared to the mikveh. You didn't want to use the mikveh because you said chaser lefanecha. So why don't you use a bogeret? And the bogeret is lefanecha. The Bogeret right in front of your face, and she's a Bogeret. So says the Gemara, no. She only became a Bogeret right now. Right? Within 2 minutes, she became a Bogeret. So says the Gemara, fine. Same thing with the mikveh. It became chaser right now, at this moment. Something happened. I don't know what happened. A little tiny bit of a leak, and little drops of water were coming out, and therefore it was shalem. Just right now. Right now, it just became chaser. That's that. Just right now, mamash right now. So says the Gemara, no. Why? By the case of the mikveh, there are two negatives. He says you cannot compare the case of the mikveh. Why? He says there's two reasons to weaken the chazakah of the mikveh. Number one, cheskat tum'ah, whether it's of the adam, the kelim, meaning the human being or the kelim that he's putting inside the mikveh, they already have a chazakah tum'ah. So that's reason number one. And reason number two, it's chaser in front of you. Right now in front of your eyes, what do you have? You have something not kosher, not something kosher. So if you have something not kosher in front of you, I'm sorry, it's not kosher. Was it kosher before? It could have been. But right now it's not kosher. So that's two reutas. That's two negative things. Hacha over here by the Kiddushin, chada le-reuta. He says there's only one reuta. What's the reuta? There's a chazakah that right now, right, she's a bogeret. Right now he bagra. Right? And therefore, right now, since it's only one reuta, so therefore it says Shmuel, I cannot compare it to the case of the mikveh. Meaning the case of the mikveh, you're right. I want to say cheskat tumah for two reasons. Number one, cheskat adam that he's tameh. And number two, the mikveh is chaser in front of you. But to do with the girl, I don't have two reutas. I only have one reuta. She's a bogeret in front of me. So since she's only a bogeret in front of me, and therefore maybe it happened right now, so therefore it says Shmuel, I have to suspect for both. It's not the case of the mikveh. If it was the case of the mikveh, you're right. And then I don't suspect for the father at all. It's hers. Her kiddushin is a kiddushin. But here I don't have that. So therefore, that's what we will come in doing. So now the Gemara is going to ask on Shmuel from another Braita. Again, we asked on Shmuel from a Mishnah. The Mishnah was mikveh. And we came and we asked on Shmuel from a Mishnah. Now we're coming from a Braita. Ushmuel, according to Shtat Shmuel, Mishnah mechavit. What about a chavit now? What does it mean? Let's see the case. What is the case of the chavit? Tanya, we learned in a Braita. Remember, before it was a question from Mishnah, right, in Mikvaot. Now we're bringing from, right, a Braita, which is a Tosefta. The Tosefta comes and it says, Haya bodeket hachavit lafrish alea truma veolech. Imagine right now you're coming and you're always separating onto this chavit, right? So for example, right, you have wine in a barrel and you have other wine that you're always coming and you're drinking. Now, I'm not going to come and take off the wine all the time from this barrel. What I come and I do is, listen, I'm going to drink right now from this bottle. I'm going to say, I want to drink the full bottle. But now, 1 second, you have to take off the truma to masrot. So how do you do it? So you say, I'm going to take off the truma, right? And I'm going to say that the truma, instead of this, it's going to be there. Meaning that barrel that I have in my storage place, that's the barrel which is going to become truma. Right now, it's not truma, right? Right now, it's regular. But every single time I want to take off truma. So now I had, whatever, this is 1 liter. So now let's just make things very easy. 100 milliliters, which is 10%. So let's say we're talking about the 10%. Fine. So 10%. So right now I've got 100 milliliters of that barrel is now truma. And I continue going. And I continue drinking new bottles. And I continue saying that that barrel is the truma. That's what I do. Fine.
So you could have the barrel with more than 100 milliliters.
100%. And then I continue going and saying that I continue everything. I continue going and going. And then it continues going up and up the level of how much is truma. So says now the Mishnah, the Tosefta as follows. Imagine right now, I'm bodeket a chavit of yain, pam. Why? Because I want to make sure that it's not chometz. Meaning wine has a danger of becoming vinegar. And once it becomes vinegar, it becomes problematic. Because then you're taking off wine for chometz. So what happens is I'm checking kol pam. I'm checking every once in a while to make sure that it's still good wine, right? And I continue going and I continue drinking. And all of a sudden, the last time that I do the check, it becomes chometz. It was actually vinegar. So until now, I've been checking and I've had a track record every single time. Don't worry about it. It's good wine. I come the last time and all of a sudden I taste it. I'm like, it became vinegar. What's going on? So now I have a safek on the yain, is it tevel or not? Because I just right now came and I separated the truma, and now all the wine that I separated from the last bedika until now, what's going to happen? What do I say? Right? What do I say? Do I say that go retroactively that it's not good? Do I go retroactively that it is good? Do I say that right now is the problem? That right now it became a vinegar? What do I say? So says the Gemara, Kol shlosha yamim vadai mikan vaelach safek. Says the Gemara, for the first 3 days, meaning I'm going back, right, the 3 days, which means, okay, there's a whole question is going lemafreya, right, which means like meaning backwards or from the beginning forwards, right? But whichever the case is, he says, Kol shlosha yamim, right, the first 3 days is going to be vadai, right? Mikam vailach safek. So here, right, there's actually going to actually be, you see here, there's actually going to be a machlokat amoraim. What is the pshat, right, in the Mishnah? If you look in the footnote, there's 3 or 4 different pshatim, right? Right? There's 3 or 4 different pshatim. What is the pshat? Do we go backwards? Do we go forwards? Right here it says, Rabbi Yochanan explains that the shosha yamim acharei b'dika kodemet halata yayin bechavit. Right? Advar v'dai sheyayin v'lo chometz. Right? That's the shita of Rabbi Yochanan. And only afterwards does it become a savek. Rabbi Yeshua says, "B'meshech shlosha yamim shekadmu lebdika acharona." You're going backwards 3 days. So let's say, for example, I'll give you a very simple case. Right? I'm checking every single Friday. So therefore, today's Friday, I check, and now it's chometz. So the machloke between Rabbi Yochanan and Rabbi Yeshua, they both agree, but it says 3 days. 3 days is 3 days. Now the question is, what does it mean? So according to Rabbi Yochanan, on Shabbat, Sunday, Monday, it was for sure wine. Why? I have 3 days. And from then onwards, it's safek. So as long as I took off yain, and it was Shabbat, Sunday, Monday, 3 days forward, it's yain. If I separated the last 3 days, or whatever it was, the last whatever after those 3 days, I have a doubt. I don't know. So now I have to take off Truma again. According to Rabbi Yeshua, I work backwards. What does that mean? Right? According to Rabbi Yeshua, the last 3 days, I'm going to say it was going to be, to the last one, I'm going to see that it was chometz. Before 3 days, it was yain. So there's obviously going to be a lot of nafkaminas there, but again, it's a machloket. How do you learn up the braita? Okay? But that's the braita. Right? Very simple. Okay. Says the Gemara, Urminan chavit amikveh. We're not going to ask a contradiction between the chavit, the barrel of wine, and the mikveh. Why? Did you realize that the mikveh, we came and we said that the mikveh is pasul, meaning anything that happened is tameh until the last check. Everything. There's no doubts. I went and I said, you checked last Friday the mikveh until last Friday. Why is it that the mikveh, there's no doubts? You go back retroactively, right? Whenever it was, the last time that it was checked. And why over here by the barrel, I have a safek, right? Where are you going to come? And you're going to say it's a safek. So says the Gemara. When we have a stira contradiction, whether it's going to be between the chavit and the mikveh, says the Gemara, Amar of Chanina Misuria. So says Rav Chanina Misuria, Man Tana Chavit. Who's the Tana of Chavit? Says, you know who it is? Rabbi Shimon. It's Rabbi Shimon. Mikveh, nami masresheka, which means that according to Rabbi Shimon, even the mikveh was a safek. It wasn't a vadai. Meaning, we took it for granted that the mikveh was, according to everybody, for sure. That you go retroactively until the last time, and that's it. And there's nothing what to talk about. It's not true. Because Rabbi Shimon says, even my mikveh, it's a safek. Titania has learned in Braita not to sefta. Kol ta'arot shenasu al gabav lemafreya, ben b'rishut hayachid b'rishut rabim tmeot. Rabbi Shimon omer, b'rishut rabim teorot, b'rishut hayachid tolin. Which means, what? Because safek b'rishut rabim is usually tahor. Safek b'rishut hayachid is usually tameh. Right? Because once it's in a public domain, then all of a sudden usually it has different rules. So basically, and they learn it from different psukim, they learn it from different places. But basically what's happening is like this. This is going be'emet, l'shitat Rabbi Shimon, that Rabbi Shimon comes and he says, both cases are the same. What does that mean? Chavit and mikveh, it's a oto davar. So let me show us. Why is it the oto davar? Very simple. They're both safek. Now, how do you learn about safek? He says very simple. On that braita, on the Tosefta mikvaot, remember there's no Gemara mikvaot, there's only Mishnayot and Tosefta. Right? There's no Gemara. So it says over there, right? The Braita in the Tosefta Mikval comes and it says, any taharot that were done on it, lemafreya, retroactively, whether it's Rishut Yachid, Rishut Rabim, it's always going to be Tameot, because that's Pasul Vadai. And that's like our Mishnah of Mikvaot. However, the Rabbi Shimon argues and he says, it's not true. He says, if it happened in Rishut Rabim, it's Tahor. Meaning, if it's going to be in a public domain, any tum'ah b'rshut harabim is tahor. And if it's going to be, right? Okay, Hara 17 comes and explains it to you. If anybody wants more of B'derech Klal, what's the entire concept? 1 minute. So he comes and he says the entire concept of whether it's Tumah B'Reshut Harabim or Tumah B'Reshut Yachid. Look at note 17, he'll explain to you where does that come from exactly. But here he comes and he says anything that's going to happen in Reshut Harabim is tahor, like the general rule. Safek Tumah B'Reshut Harabim, tahor. And that's it. I go like that general rule. That is the Shita of Rabbi Shimon. If it's going to be Reshut Yachid, now I say Safek Tameh. So therefore, according to Shitat Rabbi Shimon, it comes out just like the psul of the mikveh goes back lemafreya only misafek. So to chavit goes lemafreya misafek. So don't ask me a contradiction. Chavit to mikveh, it's the exact same thing. You're right, meaning not according to Rabbi Shimon we have a contradiction because the mikveh says for sure everything is pasul, and the chavit says safek. And the 3 days, so you go forwards, you go backwards. Okay, fine, you have different machlokot, but you have 3 days, and then it's a safek. Here, there's no safek by mikveh. Science is about there's a safek. Who's the one that taught it? It's Rabbi Shimon. Rabbi Shimon says it's exact same halacha. And therefore, since it's exact same halacha, it's a safek by both cases. That's the way it is. Okay? That's the way it's going to be. Right? Just give me 2 more minutes. He comes and he says, Aval Rabbanan. But according to Rabbanan, right? Tevel lemafreah. He says, 1 second, but according to the words of Ruchanina, it comes out that the Chachamim that argue on Rabbi Shimon, and we pass in like Chachamim against Rabbi Shimon, right? And they hold that the mikveh is pasul mafreah vadai, meaning they hold like the Stam Mishnah, not like the Tosefta. The Stam Mishnah said vadai pasul, right? So it's huadin, it's going to become tevel mafreah, meaning it's Torah vadai. It's not going to be a safek, it's going to be vadai then, and that's the way it should be. So answers the Gemara, no, there's a difference between chavit and mikveh. Shaneha tamdika lememar hemed teved al chaskato ve'imar lo nitkan. He says, you know what I'm going to say? I'm going to say, right, that there's a chazakah. You have a chazakah of tevel. This, before I took off truma, what is this called? Untithed produce, tevel. So if this is a chazakah of tevel, it's tevel. So therefore, why am I going to take away from this chazakah? So says the Gemara, Adra, but the opposite, Hamed yain el chaskato ve'mar lo echmitz. 1 second. I have a chazakah on the tevel, but I have a chazakah on the yain. 2 minutes ago, that was yain. I have a chazakah that was yain. So the Gemara answers, yeah, but it's chometz. What's in front of you when you come to the barrel? What is it? It's chometz. So says the Gemara, she's also a bogeret, right? So it answers the Gemara, no, she became a bogeret right now. So says the Gemara, so also right now it became chometz. Basically, what we're trying to do is we're always trying to go back to the bogeret, and we're always trying to ask. Beforehand, we asked on Shemuel from a Mishnah. Now we're asking on Shemuel from a Braita, and the Braita comes out the exact same thing. So answers the Gemara the same answer that we answered before. Hatam tarta l'riuta v'hachachada l'riuta hudika. Says the Gemara the exact same answer that we answered before by the mikveh. We're going to answer the same thing here. He says there's 2 reasons to say why be'emet this is not called the case of the tevel. He says, you know why? You have, first of all, chazakah v'tevel, and you have a chazakah. What's in front of you? Chazakah dehashta, we call it, or meaning ma nimtza lefanecha. What you see is what there is, right? Which means you have chometz. You have 2 chazakot. You have 2 reutas. I have 2 reasons to say it does not work. Tevel and chometz. He says over there by the bogeret, I only have 1 reason, which is the chazakah dehashta, that right now that she's a bogeret. So since I only have 1 reason to say that she's only a bogeret now, I can't compare the 2 cases. So if I don't ask on me from the case, because I don't have it. So now that we answered up Shmuel, and now we don't have a question against him, because again, you cannot compare the cases of whether it's the mikveh to the, because the mikveh you have cheskat tum'ah on the adam v'keli, and you have chaser lefanecha, it's lacking in front of you, and the bogeret is only 1. And the same thing you cannot ask from the Tosefta, from the Braita, because you have cheskat tevel on the yain, and you have chometz lefanecha, and by the bogeret you only have 1 of them. So therefore, in this case, what happens is that I don't have any questions against Shmuel. So now you have a machloket between, right? You have a machloket between Rav and Shmuel. According to Rav, her kiddushim is everything, and the kiddushim of the person is nothing. And according to Shmuel, it's nothing. Says the Gemara, Neima katanai. Why don't I just say it's a machloket tanaim, right? Ayin tet amud bet 79b. Mi motzi miyad mi. Who's taking out from who? He says, what does that mean? Right? Who's the one that's a motzi? Usually we have a general rule. What does that mean? If I want to take something from you, you have to bring the proof. Meaning, right? I have a general rule. Yeah. If right now I come and I tell you it's A, and you tell me, no, I'm sorry, it's B, you have to bring the proof, not me. Why? Because you're trying to take away from me. And if you're trying to take away from me, it's incumbent upon you. The onus is on you,
meaning we have
right,
to change the
to
status
come.
quo.
Exactly. Right? If you're changing the status quo, you have to come and bring the proof. That's the way it usually is. So says the Gemara, mi motzi miyad mi. He says, hu motzi miyadam belo re'aya. Right? So it says like this. We're talking about, imagine right now, a person's writing his properties to other people. Yeah, imagine he's going to give a present. So he comes and he says, I'm going to give you a present. I'm going to give you, I'm going to give you, I'm going to give you, I'm going to give you. So writing presents. All of a sudden, chazar bo mimatanato. He's chazar bo. I don't want to give the presents. Why? I thought you were a good guy. But then afterwards, I come and I say, you know what? I thought. It was a lot of thoughts. Right? Everyone knows the famous joke of the granddaughter. She comes to the grandmother and she says to the granddaughter, no, my grandma, how are you doing this and that? She, you good. The grandmother goes to the doctor and the doctor says, no, how's your hearing aid? She says, doctor, it's excellent. I've changed my will already 4 times. Why? Because now all of a sudden she hears, and beforehand she thought that this granddaughter is very good, and the granddaughter doesn't know that she listens. And all of a sudden she starts cursing out the grandmother. When is this old lady going to drop dead so I could get the Yerusha? And then she hears it, and all of a sudden she starts hearing, and all of a sudden she says, it's okay, fine. So now I know I can't trust this one, I can't trust this one, and I can't trust this one. And then all of a sudden they want to be chozerbo, right? So what happens? That's exactly what happens. He says, mi motzi miyad mi. Who's the one that's taking out? So he says, hu motzi miyadam belo re'aya. He could take away the nechasim without any proof. Meaning, he does not have to bring a proof that he was a chole when he wrote it, and then that nothing. Hu motzi mihem, just on the fact that he was a shchiv merah, and that's it, right? Even though he has no proof. Meaning, somebody didn't ask him, you were sick? Bring a proof you were sick. I don't have to bring a proof. No proofs. Right? Nothing. You don't have to bring a proof. Because usually, matanat shchiv merah, chozer. Meaning, because when a person is on a sick bed, right, on his deathbed, he gives out the presents because he thinks he's not going to use them. He's going to die. And all of a sudden, if he actually becomes healthy again, so he's allowed to retract from those presents. And the reason why is because we already know that the only reason why he gave those presents was he thought he was going. If he's going to be alive, why in the world is he giving out all those presents? So therefore, right, here it comes out, he doesn't even have to bring a proof that he's a shchiv merah. He doesn't have to bring a proof that he was sick. Nothing. He just comes, takes it back. Vehen en motzi miyado belo re'aya. But they cannot come and take it away from him without bringing a proof that he was healthy. Meaning, on who is an incumbent to bring the proof? On them, because they're the motzi. They're the ones that's taking it out. Fine. These are the words of Rabbi Yaakov. Rabbi Natan comes and he says, Im barihu, if right now during the time that he's asking for it, right, that means when he's retracting, alav lavi raya shaya shchiv merah. So then he has to bring a proof that he was a shchiv merah. V'im shchiv merahu, but if he's a shchiv merah, then it's alehem lavi. Meaning, I'm going to see what is the status quo right now. What is he right now? If he's a buddy, bring a proof that you are not a buddy. And if you're going to tell me that he's not a buddy, right? So then it's not going to be that way. So Neima, why don't I just say Rav Damar ke Rabbi Natan? The Rav is going to say like Rabbi Natan. That means Rav that he says the Machlokes Tanaim is, that means Rav is going like Rabbi Natan. That he says that right now it's going to be Kovea the Chazakah, that right now he's buddy. Also when he was writing his Nechasim. And therefore if there's a proof which is saying the opposite, so too Rav says, right now she's a Bogeret. And that's going to be Kovea the Chazakah right now. And I'm not going to say the opposite until you bring a proof the opposite. And Shmuel is going like Rabbi Yaakov. Just like Rabbi Yaakov says the Chazakah, the Hashtav right now is what's Kovea. Meaning, I don't care what happened. What is he now? Is he a bari or shchiv merah? If he's a bari, he has to bring a proof that he was a shchiv merah. If he's a shchiv merah, he doesn't have to bring a proof to nothing, right? Because he's a shchiv merah right now. So that means Shmuel goes like Rabbi Yaakov. So answers the Gemara, we don't say that. Why? Amar lecha Rav could tell you, Ana de Amri afilu ke Rabbi Yaakov. I even go according to Rabbi Yaakov. Says why? Until now, Rabbi Yaakov is not going to be speaking about it in this case to do with Matanat Shchimera. Because I could always say where's the money in the chazakah of its owners? Who is the owner? This guy that he's giving away the presents. So I want to put the chazakah in his master. I put the chazakah in the master. But over here, right, to do with the daughter, you can't say that put the body on the chazakah. Why? Right? Because there's no, right, that's what he's saying over here. In the case of the daughter, there's no chazakah against it, saying against the chazakah dahashta. And therefore he comes and he says, even Rabbi Yaakov is going to hold that a chazakah now is going to be kovea lemafreya for sure, even at the beginning that she was a bogeret. Meaning Rav comes and he says, I even hold like Rabbi Yaakov. Meaning don't tell me that Shmuel holds like Rabbi Yaakov and I hold like the Rabbi Natan. No. Rav comes and he says, I could even hold like Rabbi Yaakov. And Shmuel comes and he says, I could even hold like Rabbi Natan. Now how? He comes and he says, Anadam yafilu ke Rabbi Natan, ad kan lo kama Rabbi Natan hatam. Until now Rabbi Natan is holding over there to do with Matanat Shchimera, right? He says, Techule alma becheskat briim kaime. Because there's a chazakah of the entire world. What does that mean? The entire world have a chazakah bari. Unless a person has a chazakah that he's chole, there's a chazakah bari. So, man de kan mapik nafshemi chazakah, if you want to take away yourself from the chazakah of the bari, havi alav lature, he has to bring a raya, right? And therefore, this person has to bring a raya that he was a shchimera. Because there's a chazakah that everyone's healthy. There's a chazakah that everyone's healthy. Aval hacha, but over here, mika mapka nafshama chazakah de kameh. Are you going to come that is going to take away a chazakah that is already prior? Nobody's taking away from a chazakah which was prior. There was always, so therefore it's going to be a safek. So for he also holds like that, which by the way, you should actually see from here something incredible. There's a chazakah, the majority of people are bari. Meaning if somebody comes and he says, but you know what, but they're sick. Who's going to know about it? Everyone has a chazakah of bari. Right? Why? Because that's just a chazakah, unless you get out of the chazakah, right? And the people find out about it. But there's a chazakah. Everybody, they're healthy. You're right. Everyone could have little issues. This guy might have a little bit of a sugar. This one, high blood sugar, blood pressure. There's a little bit of the diabetes, a little bit of this, a little bit of that. Everyone could have, but they're healthy. Meaning, in general, they're healthy people. Okay. So now he comes and he says like this. So you're right. I cannot bring the machloke between Rav and Shmuel. Let's go back. We have to always zoom back out. Rav and Shmuel had a machloket. What happens in the case where right now, right, it wasn't like the case of the Mishnah. Because the case of the Mishnah, we had a doubt, maybe it was at the exact same moment. It wasn't that case. Because that we have a Mishnah. We don't need Rav and Shmuel. The case was the father got her married off in the morning. She got married off in the afternoon. It's on the cutoff date, which means it's exactly on the 6th month of 12 and a half. And therefore, we're not sure if she was a bogeret or not. We checked her the next day and she was a bogeret. So the next day, for sure, she was a bogeret. The question is, was she a bogeret already from the morning or not? Right? Because if she was a bogeret from the morning, so then she was a bogeret. The father's kiddushin is nothing, and her kiddushin is only kiddushin. And if she wasn't a bogeret, so then it was the father's. According to Shitat Rav, what does Rav come and he say? Rav says, her kiddushin is kiddushin. You have a bogeret in front of you, she's a bogeret. According to Shmuel, choshim l'shneim. I'm not sure. It's a fact. Like the Mishnah. Either you both give a get, or one gives a get, and one gets married if they both want. Right? That's the same pitaron as always, when you have a safek. So now what happens? All of a sudden now, we wanted to make that machloket between Rav and Shmuel, right, which are Monaim, to depend upon a Tanaim. What was the machloket Tanaim? In a completely different case. But more or less, if you want to say with Svarot, I want to apply it, I want to be makish to somebody giving a present, and he right now, he gives a present, and then he retracts. Now, if he was a shchimera, he's allowed to. If he's not a shchimera, not allowed to. If a person's a healthy person, and I come and I say, here, come, David, matana, and he gives it to him. He makes a kinyan. There's no retracting. I give him a present. Right? Now, if somebody wants to come and they have to bring a proof that they were sick. So then that's the machloket. Right? Do they have to bring a proof that he's sick? Do you not have to bring a proof that he's sick? At the beginning, we wanted to say that that's also machlok between Rav and Shmuel. Do we look at now or not? Because according to Shitat, Rabbi Natan, he's coming. What do you see now? Do you see a shchimera or do you see a bari? If he's a shchimera, there's no questions asked. If he's a bari, he has to bring a raya. According to Shitat, Rabbi Yaakov, no. It's always them that have to bring a raya. Why? Who's the one that's taking it out? So we thought that Rav, right, was going like like Rabbi Natan, and Shmuel was going like Rabbi Yaakov. He said, no. Each one could go like each shita. So therefore, I cannot make our machloket amoraim dependent upon this machloket tanaim. Second case, Neima Kani tanaim. We're going to say there's another machloket tanaim. What is other machloket tanaim? Kidsha avia baderech vekidsha atzma ba'ir. Right? What happens? Right? Maybe the machloket between Rav and Shmuel is a machloket of another tanaim. It says, what happens if the father got her married on the path? She got herself married in the city, but he will get it, and she's a bogeret. One of them says that she's a bogeret in front of us. And another one comes and he says, and it's going to be, we're going to expect two kiddushe shneim. Now these are tanaim, meaning I'm going to say that the exact same machloket of the moraim, which remember, moraim are the latter generations of the Gemara. I'm going to say that their machloket between Rav and Shmuel is the exact same case and the exact same machloket between two tanaim. The exact same, word for word. My love, chad kerav and chad kishmuel. We're not going to say that one is like Rav and one is like Shmuel. Answers no. Idi v'idi kishmuel. I could answer. Both of them are according to Shmuel. Why? Kan b'machashato v'kan b'shen machashato. I want to come and I want to say that the two braitot hold like Shmuel. Here, the first braita that says that the bat is a bogeret, right, in the morning, is talking about where she says that she was already a bogeret. So she's machish. She goes against, she renounces, she says, what you're saying, Papa, I apologize. I was already a bogeret in the morning. And therefore, the kiddush of the father is nothing. The Khan, in the second case of the Mishnah, or the case of these Tanaim, she's not saying anything. So therefore, we have a doubt. And therefore, it's a safek. So that's the case. We could say whether it's for sure or not for sure. Yeah? He comes and he says, Venema, why don't we just say, la plige, amorai namino plige. So says it in 1 second. So then it's beautiful then. If I'm going to say that the Mishnah, right, is not a machlok, meaning the Braitot are not arguing, but I'm going to say that it all depends on what she's saying. Where was she in the equation? Did she say that she already had the pubic hairs? Did she not say what's going on? So say also the Moraim are not arguing. Says Gemara B'Tizbra, you should say that. Harav Yosef b'red Rav Menashe Midvil avad uvda kevatei Rav. Rav Yosef, the son of Rav Menashe Midvil, comes and he did a case in accordance to Rav, right, like Rav. The ikpat Shmuel, and Shmuel was makpil on him. Ve'amar, and he said with his kas, kule alma kailele bekabazuta. To all the world, right, they were moded the chokhmah b'midah ktana. Ve'hai midrabanan kailele bekabaraba. And to this talmid, right, madedu chokhmah b'midah gdola, which means other talmidim were coming and saying that they were afraid to be somech on chokhmatam, to be permit an eshet ish, and he's somech al chokhmato, to be posek rav like the mekel against Shmuel, which means, and by the way, this is a Mishnah mefureshet in Pirkei Avot Perek Vav, where it says, right, hagas libo b'orah. Right, what is a gas libo b'orah? Sometimes you have people that they come and they're pashut gas libo. Gas libo means when a person comes and he wants to give a psak, he has to realize that he has a cherev munacha ben tzavaro. He could be permitting a nida doraita, permitting a nida doraita. He could be something that's kosher, not kosher. Everything, all the effects in the upper worlds, the lower worlds, depends upon the human being, what he's doing. There are certain people that are gasli bobora. What does it mean gasli bobora? What's the problem? Yeah, I want to see this. Yeah, it's for a good cause. Don't worry about it. HaKadosh Baruch Hu b'mochel. Kol ha'mevater, kol ha'omer HaKadosh Baruch Hu vatran, haftril lo me'oi. What does that mean? It doesn't exist. Right? Why? Because the person has to understand. So therefore, they come and they say, he was makpid. Says, who do you think you are that you're going to come and you're going to paskin krav lekula? If you wanted to paskin lechumra, fine, you didn't do anything wrong. Right? And if you're going to tell me now, lo plige, right? If you're going to tell me now, right, that they're not arguing, why is he makpid? Maybe the case was that it was machish. Maybe that was the case. So Amale Morzutra Ravashi says Morzutra to Ravashi. Hachi Amar Meimar, this is what Meimar says. Hilchata Kavatei de Shmuel. The halacha like Shmuel. Ravashi Amar Hilchata Kavatei Rav. But Ravashi says halacha like Rav. So what is halacha? Hilchata Kavatei Rav. The halacha was bemet like Rav, and that's bemet the klal and all isur ve'eter. We go like Rav against Shmuel. Shmuel vedine vedio. Right, exactly. Okay. Ma?
It's something really quick.
No, afterwards. I already heard your question. Afterwards. Says the Mishnah. The Mishnah says, remember, it's just a Mishnah at the beginning of the Gemara. Says the Mishnah, Mishi yatzahu v'ishtolim dinatayah. Right? He comes and he says, shh, I don't need you to love. Mishi yatzahu v'ishtolim dinatayah. somebody that comes and he and his wife go out to Medinat Hayam. Ubahu v'ishto ubanav ve'amar. Now he and the wife and children come and say, Isha shiyatzati min Medinat Hayam harehi zo ve'elu banea. Imagine a person comes, they were part of the community. They were part of the community for a good few years. So the guy comes, he has a wife, everyone knows the guy. The woman, a lot of times they didn't know who the woman was. Why? Women were always in the house. How are they going to know who the woman is? So therefore what happened is that you need testimony. So therefore he comes back, right, after many years, and he tells everyone, listen, this is my wife, and this is my children. You didn't have a dut from the people, because the people didn't know who his wife was, right? He has to tell you, this is my wife, and this is my children. So what does the Mishnah say? The Mishnah says, En tzarich lavi la'ayah. You don't have to bring a raya. Lo ala isha, not on the isha, right? V'lo ala banim, and not on the children. He's believed to say that this is his wife, and this is his children. They don't have to come and start looking into all these different things. Meta ve'elu banea. What happens if he comes back and he says, listen, he comes back, but there's no wife. And he tells everybody, listen, his wife died, and these are the children, right? Now remember, when he left, there was no children. When he left, there was no children. One more time, the Mishnah said, there was no children. He came back with his wife and children. So he is the one that's testifying about his wife. And he's the one that's testifying about his children. He doesn't have to bring a proof. Why? I believe him on his wife and children. But if he was with his wife, and then he comes back, and all of a sudden, the wife is dead. Who are these? These are our children. Says the Gemara, the Mishnah, banim. He has to bring a proof on the children, right? That they are the children of that woman, right? Why? Because if they're not the children of that woman, what does it help? But you don't have to bring a raya on the isha, right? Why? She was already checked when he got married to her. Yeah, isha nasati, right? B'mdinat hayam areizo ve'elu banea mevi raya leisha ve'en tzrich lavi raya lebanim. What happens if the guy, he went out a bachelor, and he comes back, and all of a sudden he's married, and he has children. So he says, this is my wife, and these are my children. So he has to bring a raya on the woman, right? Why? Because we don't know what happened. We don't know if anybody checked into the marriage before. He could have gone to some random place, right? Get married, because he got married here. So when he got married here, I already looked into it. It was here, right? So he says, you don't have to bring a proof on the children, because once you have the chazakah on the woman, so there's a chazakah that these are his children. Meta ve'elu banea, right? But now if he comes and he says that she died and these are her children, he has to bring a raya on both. He has to bring a raya on the wife because he didn't get married here. So I don't know who she was. And then afterwards, I also bring a raya on the children. Because just like before, when he says that's meta, and he comes back with the children, and we knew who the woman was, there he needed to bring a raya on the children to say the be'emet they came from her. So the same thing. To say the be'emet they came from her. Because you have to bring a proof that it comes from her. You have to bring a proof that it comes from her. And by the way, this makes changes in halacha until today. Right? Why? Because some people, they want to go, this is my child. What do you child? You have to bring a proof. And they know about it. And they know who's their child and who's not their child. Fine. Says the Gemara, Amar Rabba Baravuna, says Rabba Baravuna, Vekulan Bikruchim Achareya. All the cases that we said in our Mishnah are talking about that they're together with her. Meaning they're need bakim to their mother. Because if they're going to come in and they're like, listen, I don't even think it's mother. It's like, something's weird here. They have to be, jumping all over her. They have to be kruchim achareya. A person comes and he said that I got married to a woman in Medinat Hayam. So he has to bring a raya on the woman and doesn't have to bring a raya on the banim. He has to bring a raya on the gdolim, but not on the ktanim. Okay? Now he comes and he says, that which we said that you have to bring a raya on the children, we're talking about on the banim ktanim after imam, but not on the banim gdolim. Right? On them, you have to bring a raya, right? You do have to bring a raya. Okay? That means when we came and we said you don't have to bring a raya, that's only the small children you don't have to bring a raya. But the older children that you can't really tell, maybe they were adopted, you don't know. So there you do have to bring a raya, but they're not kruchim acharei imam. But medvrim, one of these words, b'isha achat. That's only going to be if he came and he said there was one wife in Medinat Hayam. But if he comes and he said that he got married to two women in Medinat Hayam, and the children, right, that are with him are from the other woman, right? He has to bring a raya also on the woman and also on the children. On the gdolim and also on the ktanim. And tomorrow we'll continue with Resh Lakish.